So, with the Oscars coming up soon for 2021, I thought it'd be good to go back to the 2020 Best Picture nominees. Now, I made a video back at the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic happened, when the 2020 Oscars happened, like a day before they happened, because I actually watched every single Best Picture nominee before the Oscars, which I had never done prior to that. So it was a big thing for me, so I wanted to get content out as soon as I possibly could. But the video itself was not good, because I didn't have time to really film and edit. So I just got pictures and put text and music kind of describing my thoughts, which was just stupid and kind of pointless. Plus, my ranking back then didn't make a lot of sense, because now after the pandemic is hit, these movies just hit different for me. A movie that I may have loved at the time, I may have just never thought about it ever since. So I want to talk specifically now, a year later, about all these films and how my opinions have changed and how I feel about them. So I'm going to go and talk about all 9 2020 Best Picture nominees from worst to best, since I haven't seen the 2021 Best Picture nominees. So yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I haven't really thought about Joker a ton since I saw it. Is it a good film? I'd say so. I think it's decent, and I think it gets the job done for what it's trying to do. And I think it is a ballsy move for a comic book movie to take a little more of a serious route. I mean, we see that sometimes in comic book movies, but like, this feels more like a pristine picture rather than a movie that's trying to be a grounded heist film or something. You know, it feels like a genuine character piece. The problem is it takes way too much inspiration from Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, both directed by the masterful Martin Scorsese. You guys all know that, but it's kind of obvious now looking back at it. You're like, oh, yeah, that's very similar. They're very derivative of that, and it's okay to pay homage to something, but like, it's just way too similar, and they're tackling essentially the same thing, both of those films. And this is like taking both of those messages and putting it into one movie, essentially. And I don't think it's the best way to go about it. That's just how I feel personally. I think it's a good enough movie. I think it hits the boxes, but there's only 2 scenes in specific that I remember that have stuck with me throughout the past year. It's obviously the iconic scene, how about another joke, Murray? We all know that scene. And then there's the scene in the train with the 3 Wall Street guys. Those are the only 2 scenes I remember, so everything else is just kind of fizzled from my mind, because it's not that memorable of a film, outside of, obviously, Joaquin Phoenix's performance, which is just a given. It's one of the best performances inside of a comic book movie, and he basically carried the whole thing. Todd Phillips doesn't really add anything to the direction. It's just fine from that angle. The cinematography is nice. The score is nice. It's like, it's a competently made movie, but it doesn't really stand out in any particular way, and I think that's why I just haven't thought about it that much. This has always been my least favorite of the 2020 Best Picture nominees. I enjoyed it when I saw it. I think about it from time to time. I think it's trying to tackle interesting messages, especially because we live in a society, but it's not really, a movie I think about that much. And Taxi Driver and King of Comedy are on just a whole different level, so please go watch those movies. I think they're way better than Joker. So, I like it. It's fine. Yeah, I'm surprised seeing Jojo Rabbit this low too. I think I had it at number 4 a year ago. And now, things have changed. I like Jojo Rabbit quite a bit. I think it's a movie trying to tackle interesting things, and I think the subject matter being very serious and the approach to it being very comedic could have not worked. It could have come off as super offensive, but Taika Waititi definitely understood what he was dealing with, and he did a good job balancing the tones, and it just feels, it works for what it's trying to do. And I think all the performances, especially from the kid, I forgot his name, very good in the film. I think the direction is very unique and stylish. It has a very Wes Anderson vibe, but I like it. I like the direction. I think it's all really well presented, and when the emotional beats come, they hit hard. The whole thing with the shoes and Scarlett Johansson's character, I mean, how could you not feel it? It's a movie that I like mostly because it's an accessible movie for the modern audience. It tackles serious subject matter while still feeling lighthearted and fun. My issues with the movie, I don't really have that many besides, the comedy itself I never found offensive, but I never found that funny either. There are definitely jokes here and there that I laughed at, but I don't know. What I liked, what Taika Waititi said was he uses comedy to draw the audience in so they can be able to experience this very emotional narrative. And he uses comedy to really ease the audience into the film. But, I didn't find the comedy that funny. So the emotional beats work fine, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that, personally, just it didn't always work for me when it came to the humor. I think Thor Ragnarok and Hunt for the Wilder People are way funnier movies. I think you should probably go watch those instead of this if you want a good comedy. But again, it's tackling serious subject matter, and I think it works well. I don't know why, but I just haven't thought about this movie a lot over the past year. I wouldn't say it's forgettable, but it's just not one that feels like it's saying that much. It's definitely saying things, but I don't know. I think it's a unique movie and it's done well, but again, I just have barely thought about it. And that's sad because I don't really have any issues with the movie. When people say, Jojo Rabbit, what'd you think of it? I say, I actually really like it. I like it a lot. What I love so much about Ford versus Ferrari is it is made for everyone. It is such an accessible movie. And it's also competently made. It is a very just well-made movie. It's not generic. It feels like it has its own voice while not trying to feel too experimental. It's a very straightforward, traditional Hollywood narrative. But that's what I kind of like about it. The simplicity is what makes it just really entertaining and endearing to me. Is it, the deepest movie ever made? Of course not. It's I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece or anything, but it's a movie that can entertain pretty much anybody. It is made for anyone willing to experience something that's feel good. I don't like throwing that term around because when I say I like feel good movies, it just comes off as you're just a sappy guy. You just like those sappy Hallmark movies. I like feel-good movies if they're genuine and they have real heart to them, and this does, because it's about two people that clearly have a love and passion for something, and they want to pursue it, and they want to work as hard as they can to achieve that. And at the same time, Christian Bale's character has the whole thing going on with his family, a very well put-together family, and that just makes it sweet, and it has a lot of heart, and I feel like people need to realize that. Like I said, it's not the movie I've thought about the most, but it's one that when I want to, I can watch any time of the day, in any mood I'm in. It is a movie just really easy to digest, and that's what I love about it. It was directed by James Mangold, and he just knows how to make a movie that's solid, straightforward, but still leaves you with something in the end, and that's exactly what Ford v Ferrari does. It delivers on everything it's trying to do, and that's why I like it so much. The Irishman is a movie that I didn't really appreciate when I first saw it initially, but oh my gosh, this movie is great, and it's really stuck with me over the past year, especially with all the isolation going on. That ending, that final shot, has been ingrained in my memory, and I have not thought about it. And I just love the way it portrays the gangster lifestyle, because with Martin Scorsese's other film, his normally known as his most iconic film, Goodfellas, that movie kind of portrays the gangster lifestyle in a very more lighthearted way. When these guys are at their prime, they're very young, they're very energized, and that movie works as that piece to really show the camaraderie around these men, and to just kind of show the lifestyle in a way that is entertaining. It can really draw in an audience. And then The Irishman is that movie where all of these actors, including the director, are all older, and they're all more mature, and they're all at a point in their lives where this is just a lot more personal to them. And that's what makes this one hit a lot more harder, especially on rewatches, where you just kind of think about it in that context. And when you try to not think about it, it still works well as a great companion piece to Goodfellas, because Goodfellas, like I said, is very energized, and this one feels a lot more subdued and a lot more laid back and a lot more like it's trying to meditate on the minds of our lead characters and to really show how this lifestyle can actually affect somebody, like really get into the nitty-gritty. And that's why that third act is so emotionally impactful. I have not forgotten about that third act, especially. The first two acts are great and really entertaining, but the third act just hits so hard. And I didn't really appreciate it when I first saw it, but I appreciate it so much more now because The Irishman is a great film. This was one of the first R-rated movies I think I saw in the theater, and I think that's a lot of... It was just that excitement of being in that theater with my mom and just kind of sitting down and experiencing this film. It's so immersive, and that's what a lot of people have said. I've rewatched it 2 different times since I saw it in the theater, and yeah, it doesn't hold up as well, but I still appreciate it from just getting into this perspective, this very direct perspective. It's not trying to analyze the statistics of the war and try to get into every single little thing. It's not trying to overbloat itself. It's very focused, and it just feels like a video game. You know, not like yeah. That's not what I mean. I mean like it feels character oriented, like you're there, like you're playing a video game, and I think that's why it works so well. And it also has a slew of very beautiful scenes. The poor wayfaring stranger scene where everyone is just sitting around, and it just shows that beauty within these soldiers, that light. And it's a movie that works for me a lot. It's not perfect, and I've got plenty of issues with it. Mostly with the writing and the characters. It's got plenty of that. But what I love so much about the film is just how it's able to encapsulate you into this world. And when I saw this in the theater, it was kind of life-changing for me at the time. Like, I just had never experienced something like that before, especially in a theater. And so, I don't know, it was just, it hit really hard when I saw it then. It doesn't hit as hard now, and I'm specifically trying to put it as low as I can because I don't like it as much as I did when I first saw it in the theater, but that doesn't mean that I don't love this movie. When I first saw it, I think I put this at the top of my original ranking and said this was my favorite 2020 Best Picture nominee. It's not. And there are 4 more movies that I love even more than this, so let's get to the next one. I actually put Little Woman at like the very bottom right before Joker, I believe, in my original ranking. Because I just thought it was fine. I thought it was competently made. I thought it had, cute direction. And it was a movie I thought was warm and cuddly, and it was fine. But I didn't really appreciate it that much until 2020 hit, and it just, I don't know, there's just something very inviting about the film. You're just like, there's something so cozy about it. You just want to sit down with these characters and just spend time with them. Because they're so easy to get to know. They're so charming and likable. And it's a movie that I just really enjoyed sitting through. And it was so pleasant. And I loved that about it. I love the 1994 version of this film with Christian Bale and Winona Ryder and Kirsten Dunst. It was a great movie. And I think I like this one more, to be honest. And I think that's because of how much they're able to capture and the way they kind of cut between the scenes, because this is not told in linear order, and so you kind of have to understand the story to really know what's going on. But I love the difference in lighting. It's very bright and warm and glowy and inviting during the past scenes, and then when you get to the present, it's a lot more harsh and cold and dark and a lot more realistic. And I love that contrast. It makes it easier to distinguish the different scenes, and I think it's all really well done. Greta Gerwig did a fantastic job with this, and I am so excited to see where she goes, because I loved Lady Bird. I thought that movie was great. But the direction in that wasn't that special. This really shows where her talent is at, and this really confirms to me that she is one of the most exciting filmmakers coming up soon. And I really enjoyed it. I think every performance across the board was great. It had fantastic casting. I mean, every single actor was a famous A-lister, but they never felt like that person. You know, I see Meryl Streep on screen, and I'm not like, oh, it's another Meryl Streep movie. It feels like that character. You just don't see movies like this anymore. Period pieces. You just don't see them like this anymore. These movies that are accessible and nice to watch. They're either, you know, really over-the-top romances, or they're just really boring BBC shows. You can't really get in between anymore. You can't really get something that's accessible. But this is very accessible, and I think anyone could watch and really enjoy it. So I actually love this movie now, and I didn't before, but I'm so glad I rewatched it recently because I adore this film. Marriage Story is a film I did not think I was going to connect to, but it hits hard. When I saw it for the first time back in December of 2019, it hit hard. And then when I saw it later, it hit even harder. And I don't know exactly what it is, because Noah Baumbach just, I don't know, he just is able to make everything feel natural and inviting, and something that you can really immerse yourself in. And that's what he does with this movie. I have never been married. I've never been in a relationship. I've never had to go through this situation. My parents are still together, so I've never had to face a divorce before. I've never known what that feels like. But there's something so tangible about the way it's portrayed in this movie that makes you feel the weight of everything on screen. And what I think is really effective is that opening sequence. That opening sequence is just kind of monologues with one person describing the other person and what they like about that person. And it makes both of these people feel like people we could talk to. They all have very likable qualities. They've got faults for sure, but they've got likable qualities that really draw you in. I care about these two characters within the first 10 minutes of the movie. 10 minutes and I'm hooked in completely. It's crazy how well they're able to craft them. And the rest of the movie goes on. You feel it. You feel the weight. And when they get involved with all of these lawyers, kind of terrifying. It just kind of shows the legal process of this. And it is really effective. This is a film that I was surprised how much I connected with on a personal level when I've never had anything to do with the situations portrayed on screen. It was just the very relatable and human writing from Baumbach that really takes you in, takes you along for the ride. And I think it's a very beautiful film. It's one of my all-time favorites. The music, the screenplay, the performances from Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, two of the best performances I've seen from them easily. I was blown away by this movie, and the ending to this day makes me cry. I'm not ashamed to say it. It makes me cry. This is an emotionally devastating film that I will never soon forget. Unlike Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of the most fun movies I've had the pleasure of seeing. A lot of people say this is one of Tarantino's worst films. This is my second favorite Tarantino film, right after Pulp Fiction, of course. I mean, Pulp Fiction will always be at the top. But what I love so much about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is how it understands the tone it's going for, and it just goes with it. A lot of Tarantino movies set them up to be very exciting, action-packed movies. Mostly the case, but like something like Inglourious Basterds has a really, really tense opening scene, and then you kind of watch the rest of the movie, and there are a lot of scenes where people are just talking for a very long time. And that's not a bad thing, and I don't have a problem with dialogue-driven scenes because Tarantino is good at dialogue. But what I love about this movie is from the very beginning, it doesn't bring you in through a tense sequence or a really exciting setup. it takes you in through just likable characters in a really chill setting, and the whole movie continues in that manner. It's chill, it's laid back, and it's something I would pretty much watch whenever I feel like it. Whenever I'm in the mood to just sit down and watch a movie that's chill and laid back, I'll pop in this one. It's so easy to watch. Out of any of Tarantino's movies, it's the easiest to sit through. And I think that's what I like about it in a lot of ways, because even though I like a lot of Tarantino violence sometimes I don't have the stomach for it. Just, it depends on how I'm feeling. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I can probably watch whenever I feel like it. It's not really, you have to take a specific time or specific mood to watch it. I can watch it whenever, and that's the beauty of it. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it's really entertaining. It's also that I love Hollywood and the history of Hollywood, and I love that time period. It was just a fun time, and they find really entertaining ways to show that. It has a lot of cameos and inside jokes, and they never feel like they're begging the audience to be like, hey, it's a pop culture reference. It feels just natural into this narrative. And then everyone talks about those last 30 minutes. They're incredible. Mwah, I love it. And the ending is so sweet. It's such a sweet movie. It has a ton of heart. And out of all of Tarantino's movies, this has the most heart I've seen from him. These are just characters that have genuine relationships and friendships, and it's really endearing to watch on screen. I love Cliff Booth. I love Rick Dalton. They work very well off of each other. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are two of my favorite actors of all time. And seeing them together on screen finally is just, it's a joy. It brings me great joy. So yeah, this is a film that it's one of my personal favorites. I adore it. Not for everyone. There are a lot of people that will find this boring, but this is just my cup of tea. This is just my thing. And yeah, it's not tackling any huge messages. It's not really about anything. But that's kind of what I love about it. So this is one of my favorite movies of all time. But there's one movie that you all know I love even more. Parasite is a masterpiece. You all know it. Everyone knows it. Parasite, in my opinion, is a perfect film. It does everything right. I feel like with a lot of these art house pictures, you can easily just pinpoint the director is trying to be artsy and flashy. You know, they're trying to be really cool to get all the awards. But Bong Joon-ho really makes it natural and it fits. He makes it look easy. It's just seamless filmmaking, but it's so effective. Every shot, every edit, every close-up, medium, wide, everything just feels perfectly placed. And that's what I love about it. Love going back and watching this, analyzing its themes and messages, but it's also a friggin' entertaining movie. It works so well. It's so perfectly paced, and the tone shift in the middle doesn't feel jarring. It feels natural. And I just love the way it slowly unravels itself and reveals different truths. And I think it's just a masterful movie. There's so much I could say about it, but literally go watch any other video on it. Parasite is everything I love about film put into one movie. It is so much to me, and it's one that gets better with repeat viewing. This is a movie I've thought about a lot. This was a movie I thought was really, really good when I first saw it, but I was slightly disappointed by the ending, and then I watched it again, and I'm like, yeah, the ending doesn't really bother me. This movie is pretty much flawless in every single way. So, I adore Parasite. I mean, I don't know if this is a surprise, but I adore Parasite. It's one of my favorite foreign films ever made. It is so much. It does so much, it accomplishes so much, and it is the most deserved Best Picture winner I've seen in years. This 100% deserved that award, and I'm so happy that this was the first foreign language film that ever won Best Picture, which is crazy. These awards have been around for almost 100 years, and they finally win. The foreign film finally wins. It's just crazy to me. But I'm glad it won because this film is perfect. It is, and it's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, those are the 2020 Best Picture nominees ranked. I'm excited to see what the nominees for 2021 will be. I'm excited to see where the Academy will go from here. I'm assuming Nomadland is going to get a lot of the award recognition. I haven't finished it. I started it and haven't finished it. But it was really good from what I saw. So I'm really excited to see the rest of that one. And hopefully it wins. I think it's deserving of it from what I've seen. So yeah. That's everything, I think. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, guys. It's been a treat to revisit these after a really a hard year. But, yeah, it's cool to revisit movies and really give my different stance on them. This is Ethan Butler, and I'm out.